Shortly before we start with the segment, Erland, I have a short question. Why is Tauros trending for you under the category arts and culture? Can you check that? Can you check that out for a second? I was waiting to ask this question for 5 minutes now.
First of all, this is not my account. It's Tochnyi.
It's Tochnyi. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but we can see.
Oh no! Hopefully, no nudes.
The Tochnyi account has a very
Okay.
Yeah, Adele. Okay.
God damn you, man!
No, it was Adele. There was no nudes. It was just Adele.
Okay. Well, it's better that I didn't scroll more down because German aid to Ukraine would definitely not be happy with the rest of the tweets down there.
Yeah, probably. Who knows? Who knows? But the segment. So before we start, or Bionade, do you want to do the introduction? Bionade?
Yes, sure. I would like to, absolutely. So, okay, today at Tochnyi we will have a look behind the headlines. We will talk a bit about the so-called FFG scandal. At least the German Bild titled it a scandal. If it is a scandal, we will find out. But I would say, let's start at the beginning. German aid to Ukraine. Can you explain to us what class of vehicle were promised and for what kind of vehicles were actually delivered? What happened there?
Yeah. So in May 2023, the German government announced the largest aid package to Ukraine to date, even until now. The aid package was worth around 2.7 billion euros, so very, very big. And in this package, there were included 100 armored combat vehicles, or over 100 armored combat vehicles. At the beginning of June, so a couple of months later, 1 month later, yeah, perfect. It then became clear that the over 100 armored combat vehicles would include 66 Bet-UMG, which are basically FFG APCs here in Germany. And these are got more or less delivered shortly after the announcement.
All right. Initially, there was like public information about the FFGs that they will have like this licensed production of the Bet-UMG. What happened there? Was it a licensed production? How works this construct?
Yeah. So originally, a licensed production was to take place in Germany by FFG. And for those who don't know, FFG is a German company located in Flensburg, and it's basically Europe's largest supplier of armored vehicles to Ukraine at all. So they are involved in many, many hundreds of armored vehicles, which already have been delivered to Ukraine. Just to name a few, for example, they are involved in the Pionierpanzer DAX, which the German government delivers, in the mine clearing tanks Wiesent, the Leopard 1F5s, of course, and many, many more. And in more detail, these FFG APCs or Bet-UMGs should mean that all parts of them will be delivered to Germany, and the vehicle will only be assembled here. If I remember correctly, Rheinmetall is planning to do the same in the future with the Fuchs APC in Ukraine. So nothing unusual. It just means that the vehicles will be delivered much more quickly instead of just producing every part in or most of the parts in Germany. And according to the article, however, FFG returned the order to a subcontractor of TAG, which is the original manufacturer in the US, which means that the production will ultimately take place at TAG in Middle East in the United Arab Emirates. And even if this, of course, represents a deviation from the original plans, I personally ask myself what speaks against the production in Germany or assembly in Germany. I mean, there must be a reason for this decision. And but ultimately, I don't see a real problem with the assembly in a different country than Germany, to be honest. At least since we didn't see a reason for this in the article, so I wouldn't overestimate the importance of that as things stand.
All right. You mentioned the Fuchs, and what is about the FFG APC? How much does it cost, and which kind of vehicles are getting, for example, used in the Bundeswehr, and which alternatives are on the market?
Yeah. So according to the Bild report, a single vehicle at FFG costs 600,000 euros. The original manufacturer in the US charges around 215,000 euros. Of course, I can personally understand that a company, or as a company, you always want to make profit. I think that's purely logical that you want to make profit as a company. But I think a price almost 3 times as high is at least questionable, let's say it that way. Especially when you consider that the FFG APC was chosen because the highly speculated alternative at the time, the Fuchs APC, which is, for example, in service with the German Bundeswehr, would be around 6 times as more expensive. At least it was reported that way back then. So at the time, the choice was between supplying 6 FFG APCs or a single Fuchs APC. And in terms of the price alone, for me, that was a purely logical decision by the German government. I wouldn't blame that, at least for this price thinking itself. But in addition to the Fuchs APC, there are a few other alternatives in the world. One that is very important to me is, for example, the Senator MRAP, which is manufactured in Canada. The manufacturer has now delivered over 1,000 of these vehicles to Ukraine in different configuration. And the feedback from Ukraine, which I heard and read and saw, and also the people I spoke to, everything is very positive. Of course, not everything is great, but it's comparably very, very positive. And unfortunately, there is no interest on the German side so far, at least not 2 or 3 weeks ago when I spoke to the manufacturer, or wrote with the manufacturer to be precise. And they actually said to me that there were no contact to the German government at all. So I really can't understand why they don't even think about supplying these vehicles. I mean, they have supplied a large amount of vehicles to Ukraine. The feedback is good. Spare parts should be available with this amount of supplied vehicles. And yeah, I can't understand that, to be honest.
Okay. You mentioned different vehicles, and they all have like their traits. And I heard there was like a core message about this scandal. How the Bild described it was there was something with the protection class, the Stanak. What kind of difference is there between the Fuchs or the FFG APC or the Senator? What is there the difference basically?
Yeah. So first, I personally wouldn't call it a scandal. I know you also not, but Bild called it that way, so we have to use a term. Just want to point that out. Very simple explanation what Stanak is. Stanak is a NATO standard which defines protection levels of certain vehicles. You have different protection levels for mine protection, for ballistic protection. So, for example, against kinetic energy from bullets. And the higher the level, the more protection the vehicle offers. It's a very, very basic explanation of Stanak. And Erlen, can you please throw? You already have that. Perfect. And so the base variant of the A1 of the Fuchs actually provides about the same protection as a FFG APC, which you can't see in the image, sadly. So I can understand why the German government said that they are choosing the FFG APCs based on the fact that the vehicle is 6 times as cheap and offers about the same protection. But if we now at the image and search for the second green Fuchs bubble more to the right, I know the designations are in German. There's a Zusatzpanzerung, which basically just means extra armor or extra protection. And this one actually offers not only more ballistic protection, but also a decent mine protection level, which is about the same as the Dingo 1, which is in service in Ukraine and works very well. The interesting question I'm asking myself now, and I think everyone or some people also ask it, and which is not explained in the build article, which I am very missing, is whether Rheinmetall offered the vehicles to Ukraine with or without additional armor. I think that makes a huge difference, not only to me, it should make a difference to everyone. Because not only in terms of armor, but also in terms of the price. If the vehicle offers good armor for the crew in return, then I can certainly understand a price, let's say 5 or 6 times as high as the FFG APC, which don't provide any mine protection, and that's sadly unfortunately not clear from the article. And by the way, huge thanks to Jeff. For the guys who don't know him, Jeff is a great guy who also tracks all kind of aid from other countries, not in that detail I'm doing for Germany, but he has a great overview, also a great list, and he helped me a little bit with the research on the Fuchs. So please go check him out.
All right. Basically, these vehicles, the BAT-MG is not protected against mines, as far as I understand it. We were talking about combat vehicles, right? Which should be shipped. For which purpose were these vehicles planned, and in what capacity are they used now?
Yeah. So since the vehicles were offered as armored combat vehicles, I strongly assume that they wanted to provide Ukraine with armored vehicles, which they could go into combat with. And I can only imagine that the Ukrainians naturally wanted to use the vehicles in the exactly same way and planned accordingly. Although, to be honest, an anonymous Ukrainian source says in the report that no vehicles with mine protection were even offered from the German side. And the source in the article also says or states that the FFG APC was offered as an alternative to the Fuchs. And that is the reason why it was assumed that a certain amount of mine protection was included in the vehicles. So unfortunately, the wording is a bit vague, and one could argue that if no vehicles with mine protection were initially offered to the Ukrainian side, they knew that they don't get vehicles with mine protection, just to be honest and also make that clear. As far as I know, and what's also stated in the article, is that the vehicles are now used for VIP transports, for example, behind the front line. So not actually for what they were originally announced or intended for. And by the way, Erland, I have a video, or I sent you a video of a destroyed. Yeah, exactly. That is a destroyed BAT-UMG, just to show you as an explanation. I cannot tell you if it's a German delivered one or one of the vehicles, one of the 100 vehicles delivered by an unknown Eastern European country. The video is from December 2023, so there might be a possibility that it's a German vehicle, but we don't know for sure, since it's basically licensed production, 1-to-1. But it shows that these vehicles were actually intended for the frontline use, and Ukraine used it that way. At least I assume. We don't see a lot of footage from the BAT-UMG, and if we see footage, it's mainly damaged or destroyed vehicles, even though not very much. So yeah, just wanted to point that out, that the Ukrainians are apparently really using or try to use them on the front line, which didn't work out that well.
Yeah, for me it sounds like bad communications, right? Well, just someone made sadly sloppy jobs there, possibly did not offer Ukraine these, mine protected vehicles or mine protected variants, and if I declare them as combat vehicles, I basically think they are like mine protected. It's at least for me watching this war the last 2 years, it's it's clear.
Yeah.
What would be your conclusion for this whole article and this whole endeavor which happened here?
So first, I absolutely agree with you. It's not about the vehicle itself. I mean, it's still a great vehicle. It just would be a great vehicle for different use cases. Like for the VIP transport, it's perfectly fine. But using this vehicle, just as you said, as an armored combat vehicle to actually go into combat, work on the front line, I think it's not very useful. But in conclusion, I can only say that I wouldn't classify all this as a huge scandal, but it raises a few questions in me, and I believe not only in me, but also in other people. And I personally want answers to these questions, because when I say it once again, when you offer or you announce armored combat vehicles, then I'm expecting armored combat vehicles and not half armored, I would say, or armored vehicles without mine protection. Because you have to imagine this is basically a SWAT vehicle given to the military to work on the front line in a war zone, in a heavily mined war zone. And that's why I don't understand. And also, this is not the only vehicle. I mean, under the same designation, we supplied Bandwagen, unarmored Bandwagen to Ukraine. So it could even be worse. Bandwagen also is a very great vehicle, and I think Erland would agree with me since he's a huge fan. It's not an armored combat vehicle. And for me, it is important that we learn from our mistakes we have made in the past and do not repeat them in the future. And this is also why I have addressed this topic not only on Twitter, but also here in Tochnyi. I think not everything in the article might be true. Maybe some things are excavated. Did I say that correctly? Excavated, like pushed up. But I think it still need to be addressed because there's some basic truth to it. And I mean, the missing mine protection, for example, is confirmed by the German government. It's not something that Bill just wrote, it's confirmed. And I think that's a serious issue, at least in my eyes, when you announce armored combat vehicles. I can't say that enough. Yeah, that's my conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree there. So, yeah, this was our little dive behind the headlines about the more or less scandal. For me personally, it's, like I said, sloppy work. If we want to support our partners in Ukraine, then we should do it the right way, and these kind of errors shouldn't happen. All right. Let's continue. Back to you, Joseph.
Well, I believe, Maurice, do you have a presentation today, or this was like the presentation this week?
No, I actually have the basic news report still.
Cool. So I think we'll do that, and then I think we have like a couple questions from the chat. So chat, if you guys have any questions for us this week, I think this is kind of our last segment. Jonathan will do like a picture of the week at the end, but if you guys have any questions for us as like a panel, more or less, feel free to ask. So Maurice, go ahead.
Yeah. Just for info, are there any questions for me at the moment or not? Anybody saw something?
I don't think I saw any that were specific to the vehicle stuff, but we'll maybe get to some general like artillery stuff later.
Yep, sure. Starting. So now that we had some negative news, I try to lift the mood a bit and with some positive news, but I keep it a bit shorter since we already had a segment on German aid to Ukraine, basically. Sorry, on the wrong slide. There's the right one. Rheinmetall began the construction of a new 155mm artillery ammunition factory in Germany on Monday, which will produce a total of 200,000 shells per year at full capacity. A new RDX explosive production facility will also be created, and even rocket engines will be produced in Unterlüß in Germany. In total, we are talking about 50,000 155 shells in the first year after construction period of about 12 to 15 months. 100,000 155 shells in the second year, and full capacity with 200,000 shells in the third year. On Thursday, the German government announced a 100 million euro aid package for Ukraine, focusing on Ukraine's short-term needs. It includes an unknown number and type of MRAPs, bombs for arming small drones, medical supplies, spare part packages for various weapon systems already in service in Ukraine, and 77 MAN Cat 1 A1 trucks with load handling systems, as you can see in the picture. All aid announced should be delivered shortly or is already in Ukraine. Then a lot of stuff happened on Friday. First, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz and the Ukrainian president signed the agreement on long-term security commitments, which makes Germany the second country in the world which signed such an agreement with Ukraine after the UK. France, as you heard from Joseph before, followed very shortly after that as the third country. By the way, I didn't. I went through the whole document and uploaded on Twitter a summary, basically, of everything. If you want me to explain it here on Tochnyi, just write in the chat, and then I will get the tweet and just read a bit from it. Just moments later, the German government updated the list on military aid deliveries to Ukraine and made public that they have delivered the following to Ukraine in the past 2 weeks. 18 FFG APCs, which we just talked about. These were, by the way, the latest deliveries. So now the delivery is closed with 66 in total delivered. Around 4,000 155 shells, 3 recent 1MC mine clearing tanks, which you can see on the picture. 1 Pioneer Panzer 2A1 DAX AV, 9 9PLOS, 10 Vector UAVs, 11 Promoco 1 UAVs, 7 Songbird UAVs, 4 border protection vehicles, 500 Falke light systems. So it's basically an LED light system specially designed for combat medics, and undisclosed IT equipment. And the big news on Friday, besides the security agreement, Germany's Chancellor Olaf Scholz announced a new military aid package for Ukraine worth 1.13 billion euros, which will include 18 Panzerhaubitze 2000, 18 remote-controlled Haubitsas 155, 2 Skynex air defense systems, 120,000 shells 122 mm artillery ammunition, and 100 IRIS-T missiles for the SLS launchers. The ammunition will get delivered this year, with the Skynex systems following in 2025, and the artillery systems will get delivered starting in 2025 until 2027. On Saturday, the German defense company Dynamit Nobel Defense, the manufacturer of the Panzerfaust 3 or the RGW-90 Matador, signed a memorandum of understanding with the Ukrainian UDI, the Ukrainian defense industry, basically. Sadly, I don't have any information which was agreed on, which is planned right now, but I will provide it, of course, later in Tochnyi if I get something. And yeah, but it's very good news. Maybe we see a domestic production of the Panzerfaust, for example, in Ukraine. And as the last item, on the same day, Rheinmetall signed also a memorandum of understanding with the Ukrainian UDI, the Ukrainian defense industry, and stated that they plan to open a new 155mm factory in Ukraine. The plan is to produce a six-figure number of 155 shells per year, including the propellant chargers in Ukraine. We have no detailed infos on that yet, besides the number of produced jets, at least the planned number. But here's the same. I will tell you everything which I need. I know. Sorry, when I know something here in the podcast. Yeah, and that's my weekly summary.